Hello, hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of CoachesCorner.health. I am one of your co-hosts, Leslie Gadet, mindset and emotional awareness coach for women. I work with highly motivated female entrepreneurs who have strong CEO skills but need to incorporate more self-care into their life and business to support their emotional and physical well-being. Andy, over to you.
Beautiful. I love your introduction.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I am Andy Lidstone. I'm your other co-host, and I coach many people around boundaries. We have lots of conversations around boundaries. Leslie and I have discussed boundaries, and I help people create boundaries that help them connect with other people instead of protect themselves from everybody. So thank you for joining us in another conversation. This one is a good one. We're looking forward to this one, both of us. So what are we talking about today, do you figure?
Yeah, well, is it a problem or is it a symptom of something bigger? And this is what we're going to be talking about. We talked last week, first of all, about how you might feel like you're being left out, you're being ignored by your peers, by your friends, by your significant other.
Yep.
And this week we're going to talk about you're needy, or are you? Because I think one of the things is it really a problem that you're needy, or is it a symptom of something bigger?
Yes.
Meaning it could be low self-esteem. Maybe it means that you're looking for outside validation. And we're going to dig into that a little bit as we carry through this conversation. So that's what it means to me.
Yeah, actually, yeah. And that's the point. The title of this episode is You're Needy. And this is an interesting statement because sometimes somebody might tell us or we might tell somebody else that we're needy or they're needy. And sometimes it's a judgment of ourselves. Sometimes it's a judgment of someone else. But what does it even mean? Like, how do we even know? Like, who decides this and what does it look like? And that's what we get to dig into today. And I want to start off by saying, first of all, what even is needy? Like, what's that all about? And it's not as easy as you might think or as simple as you might think, because we all need something. We need air to breathe, food to live, food, clothing, and shelter, those basics. We also need social connection. So what does it mean to be needy? And I think that definition is really, really vague for most people. I think some of the reasons that some people get into discussions or being called needy is because somebody is judging us or someone else as needy when that person may not judge themselves that way, or somebody else might not judge them that way because they have different definitions of what that even means. So the general idea is somebody who's needy is asking somebody else to meet their needs more than someone judges is reasonable. So, for example, if I'm calling myself needy, I want somebody else to meet my needs more than I judge is reasonable. If I'm calling somebody else needy, so that person needs other people to meet their needs more than I judge is reasonable. But we all need somebody else to meet our needs. Like, we need social connection. That is one of our core needs. Therefore, we're all needy in some fashion. But what does it mean when we call somebody that? That's my suggestion, or that's my definition. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I did a little cheating, of course, just because I want to bring a little bit more of an idea to this conversation. So the term needy is actually, it's an adjective, obviously. It's of a person lacking the necessities of life, very poor, needy, and elderly people of circumstances characterized by poverty. And that's typically what the definition, the actual dictionary is saying it means that. Another thing I found was they talk about, again, in the definition, in the dictionary, they're defining it as someone who doesn't have enough of life's necessities like money, food, water, education, or shelter. And again, we have the charities like the Salvation Army, the Red Cross. They collect resources to help these people. You'll often find even in these charitable donations that we make is to help other people who are in need of something. So that's kind of typically been the worldview of needy.
Yes.
But I think what's happened is over time, somehow,
Yeah.
we've created this new definition around needy, meaning like, oh, you're just too needy. I can't meet I feel like I am not going to be able to meet your needs. They're not going to be good enough. And I think that's where now the definition, the term has now kind of led people along to use that word around, being really truly needy. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is the definition that we as humans have placed on ourselves or other people as either being too needy. They need more of our attention than we're really finding is reasonable, as Andy was saying, that we want to give, that we feel is enough. And vice versa, someone else might say the same thing about us. And it could also be, there's a lot of things I think that we can talk about. We can dive into why someone would, I don't know if they would necessarily judge themselves that way, but someone else might judge them that way, or they might judge someone else that way. And where does that come from? Because it comes from whether we're doing the judging. Could that become a deeper level symptom or problem that we're trying to deal with, that why we were deflecting that particular label onto someone else?
Right.
And vice versa, if someone feels that way about us, is there something, maybe a deeper level symptom of the problem of someone saying is our problem? Is there a deeper level to that? Meaning, are we putting higher expectations on certain people in our lives to meet the needs that we need met? So yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Right. Yeah. And I think there is a judgment going on, and where's the judgment coming from? Is it because there is actual needs that aren't being met, or is it because somebody is judging as wanting or needing more than people want to give?
Mm-hmm.
I know I judged myself as needy a few times, and I know other people. I've had clients who say, "I think I'm just too needy." So I know lots of people who've judged themselves as needy, but far more other people as needy. And where that comes from, I think, on the surface, is somebody wants something from somebody else, either their partner, their friends, whatever, some other relationship, and they're not getting it. So, say for example, I want to hang out with my partner, my husband, my wife, for 3 hours every evening after work and after supper and after the kids have gone to bed. I want to hang out for 3 hours and watch movies, or play cards or whatever, like do stuff. And say my partner doesn't want to spend that much time after after work and the kids have gone to bed and supper's done and all that sort of stuff. They don't want to spend that much time being social. They want to, maybe within half an hour, maybe they want to go to bed themselves. They don't want to spend that much time spending time with me. It's not because they don't enjoy me. It's more that they prefer to spend that time resting or sleeping or doing something different. Maybe they got a side project they want to do or something like that. So it's usually a difference in judgment as to how much time, attention, love that one person wants over what the other person wants to give. And this is most common in relationships, in romantic relationships, but it's also pretty common in friendships and in family members as well. And it even happens fairly often at work. Essentially, somebody wants more of something, more attention, more time, more help, with something than somebody else is wanting to give. So either the person who wants more of that is judging themselves as needy, or the person who is being asked more of judges the other person as needy. And is that actually what's going on? Or is one side or the other having some deeper issue? Maybe the person who has more needs just has some serious insecurities and they need outside validation for nearly everything. Or maybe the person who is judging somebody as needy, maybe they have some sort of resistance to attachment or resistance to being, around other people. Maybe they prefer to be alone for some reason, or maybe they have mistrust of other people and that sort of stuff. So is this a deeper issue, or is it really just that somebody's just needing more of what another person wants to give? I think it can be both. It can be both a problem where it is just the surface problem, but it also, most often in my experience, is something deeper.
Yeah. And you know what? I also was thinking too that being needy doesn't have to actually be, I mean, I think it's a label that can be viewed as negative. I think, or really is really
Yes.
viewed as negative. But I think sometimes when someone just wants the attention, as an example, because I like to use myself. My husband always would say to me, like, he would be on me about spending time with him, and it wasn't that he didn't want me to do the things that I love to do. It was that we needed to connect more. So there
Right.
was a deeper issue that was the problem, which was we were not spending enough time together, quality time. And
Yeah.
his idea of just, I don't know, I thought it was pestering at the time, but it turns out he was right. We weren't spending as much time as we needed, I think, to really have that connection. And that's how, we were able to come to that conclusion. I was able to come to the conclusion, this is what he's saying. Okay, I understand. And being able to like be flexible with my time and how I actually schedule out my days so that I leave room for us to spend that quality time. So usually at the end of the
Right.
day, I have a no scroll rule. So usually by 7 p.m., sometimes earlier, everything's off and I'm
Mm-hmm.
spending time with my husband, and that's
Mm-hmm.
it, nothing else. So I think that was like, was it needy? No, it was needing more connection. So it
Right.
became less of that negative word and
Right.
more of like, okay, let's turn I want this positive outcome, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking you for this time.
Right. And that's again an example. I love that. I love that for a lot of reasons. There's example as you've given, because it's an example that there was a deeper problem. It wasn't a deep emotional trauma kind of a problem. It's just that your husband felt the two of you weren't connecting. I mean, you've been married for quite a long time, and he felt the two of you weren't connecting as much as he thought was reasonable. Um, and you didn't necessarily disagree with him. You had just busied yourself during the day, and hadn't left enough time to really connect with him. And he noticed it and decided that he wanted to mention it. And once you actually paid some attention to it, you agreed with him, right? Once you actually put some thought into it and put it in your conscious brain, you agreed with him. So again, being needy isn't a bad thing, like you said, to your point. It's not always a bad thing, because we do all have needs. Let's meet those, right? I think a lot of the negative judgment comes through when we judge why our needs aren't being met or why we don't want to meet somebody else's needs. Oftentimes, the term needy, I think we use that when we judge either ourselves or somebody else as wanting more than somebody wants to give, than our partner or the person we're looking to wants to give. Or maybe we're judging them as wanting more than we want to give. And what I mean by that is, well, the example I used earlier, 1 hour versus 3 hours, or half an hour versus 3 hours, or It can come out in money. It can come out in, attention. It can come out in gifts. It can come out in like virtually any way you can think of. It can come out in lots of different ways. Um, but it is that somebody wants more than someone else wants to give. And there's a difference in what those two people might judge as is reasonable, right? And I think that's where the idea comes from. Now, where does that difference in judgment come from? If the person who is being labeled as needy either by someone else, if the person who's being labeled as needy wants to rely on just one person, their partner, for example, or their best friend, and that person they want to rely on that person to be their everything. Every kind of life situation they want to share with that one person, that then they themselves or the other person, somebody might judge that as being needy. Because now the person, that one person is responsible for giving you virtually all of their attention. And what happens if they have other things than other people, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a way to be judged as needy as well. And what's the problem? What's going on here? And another thing too is on the other side of the coin is if the person who's being asked, so I'm judging my friend as needy. What happens if I just don't want to give very many people much attention? What happens if the problem is that I want to keep my attention to myself, or I'd rather be off by myself or doing something different? So I'm judging somebody as needy when really all they want is an hour or two of my time a couple times a week. Right? Is it because I just want to avoid that person or avoid people in general? Sometimes we use the label of calling somebody needy when really what we want is to not be their friend anymore or not be in a relationship with them anymore. We start calling them needy so that we don't have to break up with them, or so that we don't have to take responsibility for the different relationship we want, for the different level of a relationship. We don't want to take responsibility for changing our relationship. So we just call them needy. And without actually knowing that really what we want is to reduce the amount of time and attention we give that person. So what is the issue going on, right? That's the question here. Is it a problem or is it a symptom? It can be both. So it's just a matter of asking yourself, where is this actually coming from? So I'd like to dig in a little bit to whether we're judging ourselves or we're judging somebody else. Like you mentioned, most of the time somebody else is judging us as needy, or we're judging somebody else as needy. I'd like to dig into that a little bit. Why would we judge somebody as needy? Or why would somebody judge us as needy?
Well, first, one thing I wanted to bring to the table, which is something that I talk a lot about, which is self-care. And I think sometimes we have to also check our energy, because it could be that moment where, say, for example, you call me up and you say you need to talk to me for an hour and I'm exhausted. And I'm like, I just don't want to, but you're persistent. Then I might label you as being needy in the moment. And vice versa if I was to do that with you. And I think that's one thing I just wanted to point out, because sometimes it's not necessarily that the person is being needy, and you had already mentioned that. It just could simply be, there could be on a different, looking at it a different way. It could be just you have low energy and you just don't feel like you don't, and you could be going through some stuff and you just don't want to give anyone else the time that you need to recharge. Sometimes people do. Sometimes people reach out to us. It's not always the right timing. And we've talked about this. Timing is really important, especially in relationships and when you have conversations. And so that was one thing I wanted to talk about. As far as why we would call someone else needy, or even ourselves, it's really, I think, comes down to, first of all, if we're calling ourselves needy, where is it coming from? Why would we think we're needy? And if we are saying, well, this person or these people are not meeting they're not meeting me where I want them to. I have an expectation. And so if they're not meeting me where I need them, they're not available to me when I need them. And I start thinking, well, maybe I'm too needy. It really could come from a whole lot of things, but a lot of it will probably, you can trace it back to your past growing up. Maybe as a child, you didn't get the attention that you needed when at a critical time in your life, and that is a memory that pops up for you. And maybe you're not even thinking about it because it's subconscious, because it's something maybe you buried, but it was an experience. It wasn't a pleasant one. And so when you don't get the attention that you want, because it becomes a want, I think then you might think, well, maybe I am too needy. Maybe you could also be one as well. If you don't think highly of yourself and someone isn't meeting your needs, they're not giving you the attention, the time, you could be looking at it as like, well, maybe I'm not worthy of it based on specific experiences. And so in turn, I'm probably too needy. That's what they're thinking. You're putting words into their mouth, thinking, oh, they must think I'm needy, therefore I'm needy. So that could be one scenario. Turning it to flip side, looking at someone else as calling them needy. Where is that coming from? Because again, it could also be a self-reflection. Like, are you the type of person that isn't giving? Or do you, maybe like you were saying, the relationship doesn't mean as much to you as it does to them. Therefore, you don't feel that the level of commitment of your time warrants the amount of time that they're expecting from you. And so therefore you might start calling them needy because they want more of your time than you're willing to give, because you're not really invested in that relationship the same way. So those are my thoughts.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly it. It's first of all, your first thought on self-care. That's brilliant. Check your energy on both sides. If you're asking something from somebody, check your energy. Are you begging? Are you desperate? Are you in that place where there's no way this will get done if you don't help me? People resist that. If I go to you and say, look, Leslie, you're the only person that can help me and I need you at this moment, you're likely to be more resistant to helping me in that situation. I mean, you and I are close enough that you probably wouldn't, but most people in that case are going to resist helping somebody in that case. Because that desperate energy is off-putting. People, it's a kind of energy people don't want to be around. And if you do have emergency, then certainly reach out to people. If there is something really critical, then certainly reach out to people. That's the point. We want to reserve that desperate energy for seriously desperate situations, so that when people believe it, so that when we use it, it doesn't get brushed off as being needy. And the second thing, to what you said, check your energy if somebody's asking you for something. Are you just tired? Are you simply lacking in self-care? Are you simply not don't have a full tank, haven't filled up your own tank yet? If that's the case, then do you have enough to help this person in that moment, or do you need to go off and do self-care? Check yourself, because at different times we can offer different solutions, right? This is something that I've been doing recently. As my schedule gets more and more full with clients, I've had to check, do I have the space to help this person at 3:00 in the morning? Do I have the mental energy or the physical energy to give this person a third or even a fourth call in a single week? Right? Do I have the time and attention to give somebody who's really going through something? To check myself. And then a couple times the answer's been no, I just don't have it. Right? Because I judge what they're going through as something they could handle on their own, at least for another day or two until our next appointment. And most of the time I am available. And I like that. I like to be available. But as my schedule gets more and more full, I'm not always available. Sometimes I'm already on a call with another client, and maybe I have a day full. of calls, and I don't have the time and space until, maybe late at night. So these are the kinds of things that we can check ourselves, both when we're asking for something and when somebody's asking something of us. I like that's something you brought up, because self-care before we ask and self-care when somebody's asking for us, those are things that we usually don't consider. Most of us don't even consider, do I actually need this, and do I actually have the space to offer this? These aren't things that most of us ask, because either we default to no, I never have the space, or we default to yes, I can always help. And from the needy side, from the person who's asking side, sometimes we default to I will never ask for help, or I always need help, I can never do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So ask yourself those questions consciously, on purpose. When you reach out for help and when somebody's reaching out to you for help, ask for yourself. You know, and even not even when you reach out for help, if you're the person who the kind of person who doesn't generally ask for help, whenever you're struggling with something, whenever you're finding yourself getting just a mildly frustrated about something, ask yourself, could somebody do this better? Could somebody else do this better, or help me get this done better? Ask yourself, because oftentimes it's an opportunity for you to get closer to your friends, for you to get closer to those people in your life that you care about, by asking for help. The best way to get closer to the people in your life is to ask for help. People love helping each other. So those are some of the ways to look at what's going on underneath. Like the self-care issue is a big one. It's one of the biggest reasons why we do or don't ask for or need things from other people. Right. I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's so important because, you know, you can look all over social media. You'll see people talking about how they're burnt out or they're not feeling good about themselves, or they
Yeah.
put these things like, I saw someone recently put on there, oh, I'm so upset. Like it was like an emotional way of saying things aren't good in my life, but there was no
Right.
explanation. But this is what's happening all over social media. People get into their feelings and they're just putting it out there, which is great. I think that's, first of all, that's amazing because you're being vulnerable. You're allowing yourself to be
Yeah.
vulnerable because you never know. There could be someone out there saying, like you said, people want to help. You'll get a lot of people saying, hey, reaching out to you, are you okay? What do you need? How can I help you? But I think what happens is, one of the things we talked about last week as we were thinking of, or this week as we were thinking about today's topic, was the difference between needy or clingy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, I found the explanation between being the difference between the two was, when you're needy, you're too dependent on someone else. So you're really dependent on them. And I think dependent on them for your validation of your self-worth, I think that comes into play. And
Yeah.
so you cling to them, and you need them to feed you with this self-validation over and over and over in order for you to properly function. And this is
Mm-hmm.
where you come from that place. Now, is that the problem? No, obviously, we know right there that's a symptom, and there's something deeper going on here. Now, they also talk about people who are already strong and independent. They enter into a relationship and then they forget who they are. I've often used myself as examples in my posts on Facebook around how I had used to be in relationships and I'd morph into someone else, believing that the person that was attractive for that person to be attracted to me is now just, that was just like the opening
Right.
bid. And now I had to like up it. I had to become
Right.
different. I had to
Yeah.
change. So you forget to be who you are. And then all of a sudden you can fall into that neediness where now you're dependent on your partner to
Yes.
validate your worth. So I really thought that was really interesting when I found that, with the needy or the clingy. And so you could be, the neediness comes from just, you really need to have that validation, but you cling to that one person or series of, people that you have in your life to give you validation that you're enough, that you're good enough. And
Yeah.
if they don't give that to you, if they're not readily available to give that to you, um, where does that leave you, and what are you willing to do? Like, are you willing to actually allow yourself to say, you know what, wait a second, do I really want to be like this? Because I think that's where it comes down to. That is really where you need that. Maybe you need to talk to somebody about that. It could really just be about having the confidence to say, today so and so is not available to me. How can I tackle this right now on my own, so that I'm good, and I'm good until they are available? Because I think too, when you have people who you might deem as needy, maybe what we as people, who get those people asking us for things, and they're all of them have their hands out, and we are again checking our self-care, checking our energy, and if we're not available, maybe we could look at it saying, look, I'm not available now, I'm available now this time, like you do with your clients. You've done
Yeah.
that multiple times. It's
Yeah.
not saying no, but it's saying not right now, because
Right.
I need this space for something else, or I might need it for myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting when I was looking at the term, the what this person had written, and I started like digging a little bit deeper into what they were saying, and I recognized it really comes down to, a lot of the time the neediness comes from maybe the confidence isn't there. The low self-esteem could be there. Maybe you went through something. Maybe you are low energy. You know what I'm saying? Again, self-care could actually come into play for you as the person
Yeah.
who's being called needy. Maybe you're not
Yeah.
taking care of yourself, and so you're tired. You're not getting enough sleep, so you're really tired, and you're really emotional, and so that you start reaching out to people, and it becomes a demand rather than a request. So, and we talk about that a lot too when we have our conversations. So anyways, I
Yeah.
know I went off on a tangent a little
No,
bit,
that
but
was
yeah.
exactly on point. That was exactly on point. First of all, needy versus clingy. Needy people need from all kinds of people. Somebody who classifies themselves as needy, or who is classified by somebody else as needy, is often classified that way because they're judged as nobody can meet their needs. We call somebody needy when maybe myself, or maybe one person, or maybe several people have tried to help this person and it's not enough. So we classify them as needy, or we classify ourselves as needy because we've looked for several people to help us, and nobody can.
Mm-hmm.
Versus clingy is somebody who's looking for only one person to help them. Clingy is somebody who clings to a single solution.
Yeah.
I need this thing, and this thing is the only thing that can fix my problem. This person is the only person who can fix my problem. That's clingy. It's a version of needy, but it's more of a focused version, where somebody who's needy might be looking for that solution from several people, or might have looked for this solution from one person at a time, but over several people over the course of time, whether it's years or decades, or even days and months.
Yeah.
Clingy is somebody who's just gone to one person for the solution, and they believe that's the only person that can give them that solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other thing you mentioned is, oftentimes, if we're the ones being needy, either because we're judging it ourselves, or because somebody else is judging us as needy, oftentimes it's because we haven't done our own self-care. A lot of people who are being needy by that statement of judgment have not done much of their own care. They haven't taken care of themselves. You use the example of sleep, and that's a great example, because that's one of the first things that we don't do on our own, is get a good sleep schedule. But it also can include food, or exercise, or emotional strength, or self-time. It can move. There's a lot of things that you teach about how to do self-care. There's a lot of ways that you help people learn what self-care is. And if we're not doing enough of our own self-care, and it's called self-care because you do it yourself, not other people, right? They don't do it for you. If we don't do enough of our own self-care, then oftentimes we do look to other people to meet those needs, right? And that's, if we're being labeled as needy, then that's often the case, is we haven't learned how to meet our own needs in those ways. That's another way that this is a symptom of a deeper problem. I don't know how to, or haven't put in the effort to try to meet my own needs. I'm going to expect somebody else to meet them instead. I know that an earlier version of me, that was that guy. I used to, in my younger years, expect other people to meet my needs.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, my parents kicked me out of my house because of that very characteristic. At some point, I've lost different relationships because of that characteristic. Because I was being needy, I was asking too much of the people in my life, so I ended up alone a lot. And the more alone I got, the more needy I became, until I learned how to take care of some of my own needs. So that's another example. It is about, can you care for yourself? Can you take care of some of your own needs? And the more needs you can take care of on your own, the less you need other people. And again, be careful, because you can go too far with that too. Just as we were talking about before, we do need other people. So there's a balance. And you'll know you got the balance when you find people in your life that like how much you rely on them,
Mm-hmm.
that are in alignment with how much you rely on them. They want to give what you ask, and they want to ask what you give. Right? So
Yeah.
that's how you know you're not being needy anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Um, I want to, if we can, segue this into the needy as a form of manipulation, because I think it can actually be that way. Just personally experiencing it, I think in my own life, even as recently with, with my mom. She's aging. She's in her mid 80s, soon to be over the hump, and I find over the last 27 years, almost 27 years of my marriage, that it's been a form of manipulation. And I think she's looking for attention, because
yeah,
there's been things that she's said, uh, where I've been miles away. So I can't just pick up, get in my car and drive over. Are you okay? All I can do is pick
right,
up the phone. But there would be things said. So it's like, whether it's saying things passively aggressively, such as, I have to pay for my car, I have to get a whatever car part, but I'll have to wait until such and such a time. Or,
yeah,
so in other words, the money comes in. Or one of my youngest brother, with his alcohol addiction, and she would say something about that, and she'd put that in a message, but then come back later when I would get upset about it. And come back and say, "Oh, it's really not that bad." So
right,
it's manipulating the me, trying to manipulate me. I don't know how yet, whether it's just emotionally to get attention. I think it's
right,
really just to get attention. I don't know if it's because she's an only child, because I really don't know that. I've never done a study around it. I'm sure I could look for studies around that,
right,
personalities and things like that around only children, people who are only children. But that doesn't mean anything, because I think it really just comes down to the healthy relationships of their relationships with their parents, and then with their friends and stuff, like things like that.
yeah.
But yeah, I found it. I think it really is what I believe a form of it can be a form of manipulation with respect to my own relationship with my mother. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I do truly believe that being needy can be a form of manipulation. This is what comes into what we call codependence. Um, the just to clarify for a minute, the short, simple definition of codependence is: I meet your needs, you meet my needs. I don't meet my needs, you do. You don't meet your needs, I do. So I'm responsible to make you happy. You're responsible to make me happy. That's codependence. So most of the time we get into a codependent relationship because I don't believe I can meet my needs. I don't believe I'm capable or worthy of meeting my needs. Therefore, I need to be worthy of you meeting my needs. I need to be good enough. I need to do the right things to make you want to meet my needs. If I solve enough of your problems, then you'll have all kinds of time and space, time and energy to meet my needs for me. That's how codependent relationships work, and that's a part of manipulation. That's a kind of manipulation. I'm being needy because I need you to meet all my needs for me, or at least some of my needs for me, and I'm going to manipulate you to meeting them, or by doing the things that you need done so that you don't have to. Right? I'll do your laundry. I'll make your food. I will, I will deal with your family. I will talk to people who have conflict with you. I will resolve all the problems you have, so that you can then go and meet my needs, so that you can make me happy. And it's not because I'm going to help you out because I love you, because I care about you, because I want you to be happy, and because I've met my needs and I have this space. I'm doing so from a place of manipulation, place of I need you to meet my needs. In order for you to do that, you have to have no problems in your life. So I'm going to solve all the problems in your life so that you can meet my needs. That's manipulating. I'm going to fix everything in your life so that I get what I'm looking for. That's a kind of manipulation. And oftentimes, if the person we're doing that to is a little more healthy, they'll classify us as needy. Right? They'll say, you're just being too needy because you need me to meet your needs, and I'm feeling manipulated. Again, I was in that position where I was in the needy place where I was trying to meet somebody else so that they would meet my needs. This needy conversation really hits home with me because I was that a lot as a young man. I was both judged as that and judged myself as that as a young man. And I realize now that what I was doing is I was trying to meet other people's needs so that they would meet my needs for me, because I didn't think I could meet my own needs. And that was and is a form of manipulation. It's pretty common in relationships that are struggling that this codependency is a part of that problem, part of the why relationships struggle, because we're manipulating people into meeting our needs.
Yeah. Right? And what's I think thoughts? Too is like, yeah, because I truly believe that, because I've even seen that in some relationships where if you won't give me this, then you can't have that. I won't give you that. Like it's almost a form of, right, keeping something from you. You're not going to be rewarded if you, in other words, you look at it as almost like a reward system. You give me, and then you will get. But if you don't give me, then you get nothing. Yeah. And that is manipulating the relationships. And I think, well, for you, I'm sure a lot of your clients have come to the table with that particular issue, with someone who is manipulating the relationship in a way that is, if you don't give me what I want, then you are not going to get what you think you want or what you think you need, because I won't meet your need unless you give me what I want. And not necessarily is what that person's demand is something you might even feel comfortable doing, but because they're holding that, or even be capable of. Yeah, they're holding that as dangling that as your need as a carrot in front of you, that the only way for you to get that is for you to meet a need that, again, like you said, you may not be able to meet the need, or again, you might not feel comfortable in doing that. And so how do we, because I know we've talked about this through the whole time. I know we've got a few minutes left before we start winding down. What would you think is the best way for someone to really start looking at themselves? Because I know you talk about your personal experience around judging yourself as needy and being judged as needy. What was I want you to give the tips of how you were able to figure that out for yourself and how you were able to manage that for yourself. Because I think that would be really powerful for our listeners.
First of all, I didn't figure it out by myself.
Okay.
I was needy, and I needed somebody else to explain it to me in a way that I could understand. A lot of people told me I was being needy throughout my life, And I had someone tell me that I was being needy in such a way that I understood what they meant. I reached out to a coach for help, and she said, I can help you under these circumstances, under these ways. And every time I would message her needing more than that, she would remind me of the boundaries. She would remind me, I can give you this help under these circumstances in this way. And then she would remind me, in order to take care of myself and my other clients, this is what I need to do. So she helped me to understand that I was being considerate by letting her have those limits, or I was being selfish if I asked her to go outside those limits, which is how it helped me to realize, wait a minute, I don't want to be selfish. I don't know how to meet these needs myself, but I definitely don't want to be selfish. So if she can't meet my needs, I got to find another way. And she's the only person right now in my life who I think can meet my needs. Therefore, I got to find another way to meet those needs. And two things happened. Some of those needs I decided I didn't need anymore, including a warm, safe place to live. I decided I didn't need that anymore. So I just went to less than safe places and less than warm places to live. And other needs, I just decided I could figure out how to make those on my own. You know, I decided, okay, well, if I don't have a warm and safe place to live, I'll go where it's the warmest, safest place that I can. Maybe it's not as good as I want, but I'll go to the best place I can get, and I'll meet that need myself and not put that on someone else. It's not their fault I'm there. It's not because they refused to help me or they didn't, it's nothing to do with them. It's because of decisions that I made. I chose to take responsibility for why I was in the position I was in. And I chose to do what I could do about it. If I didn't believe I could solve the problem, then I solved what I could solve. When I was homeless, I used to go to other people and I need you to give me a place to live. Well, when they couldn't, and specifically my coach, she was a country and a half away. She was a few thousand miles away. There was no way she was going to be able to give me a place to live, even if that wasn't a boundary she put in place. Even if I was living in her local city, she still wasn't going to let me live with her or give me a place to live. That's not her responsibility. So what she helped me do is to take responsibility for the things that I could do. When I didn't have a place to live, I would find some place that's warm-ish and safe-ish, as close as I could get to warm and safe. And that's the best way I could meet my needs. And as I learned to do that more and more, I learned that I was more and more capable of meeting some of my own needs. And I learned finally what self-care actually looks like. How to care for myself. So the solution is figure out how to care for yourself. It's not going to look like what you think. Some of those needs that you have are not going to get met. And some of those needs will get met in much different ways than you think. To this day, I don't get my financial needs met by having a traditional job and earning a traditional income. Some of my financial needs are met because I have friends and family and even clients who want to give me things instead of money, who want to give me a place to stay or give me some items or some food or some stuff. They'll trade what they do have for my time and energy. Most clients that are paying me do pay me money, so I have money. But a lot of the clients who don't have money pay me in some other way. And so I've learned that there are other ways to get my needs met. Right? And that's kind of what I figured out how to do is I took responsibility. I found a way to get my needs met. I also changed what my needs were, what my expectations were around those needs. So the solution for me was about really examining what can I do and do that. Take responsibility for doing what I can do, because I wasn't wrong. The needs that I wanted to be met, I couldn't meet those on my own. That was correct. The solution was changing those needs. Really coming down to, okay, what can you do? Do that. learn how to do what you can do. And then over time, I've learned how to, I've opened up my capabilities. As I learned to do the things I was capable of doing, I became capable of more and more. And that's how I solve the problem.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I think it's powerful. Like I told you, it would be powerful because I think it really just comes down to a lot of the time people are looking at, oh, you mean it's not some big magic solution. A lot of, and that's what I think is so misleading on social media when you see a lot of offers out there that are saying to you, do this, you'll get that. It's do this so that you get yourself on the road to getting that, is really how it should be phrased, but that's not how it's phrased. I think what was really powerful for me in your story is that you recognized something that you didn't want to be. It was a characteristic of yourself that you did not want to be your identity, which was being selfish. And in that, it not necessarily forced you, but it made you change your trajectory of how you would look to meet your needs through someone else, and started looking for ways that you could meet your needs. Maybe not necessarily in the way that you had hoped for, but you found as much as you could to get close enough. And each time, over time, you've managed to make things better and better and better for yourself. And it just has to start at one place. It's like, what is something about yourself in that? Is it, maybe it is for you, our listeners who are thinking, I don't want to be selfish. I don't want people to think I'm needy. Okay, so if that is the case and you don't want that, how can you start becoming more self-dependent, looking for ways to help yourself meet your needs, the ones that you can effectively at least get as close to them, meeting them as you can. Yeah, some of the bigger needs you might need help, and that's okay, reaching out, but allowing the person or people that you are relying on to help you meet those needs, giving them the space, the time, the courtesy, the respect. If they say to you, look, I can give you this day, this time, for this amount of time, and that's what I have to offer you right now, accept that graciously, and then over time you can still reach out to these people. When you are honoring someone else, that helps them to meet your needs with more of a joyful heart, giving more of their time, because they feel like, oh, you honor me, you're honoring me in the boundaries I've set around this relationship. And so I want to give more. That we just have a giving nature. And I think that's what I find very admirable in like how you work with your clients. That's one of the things I really, really love about that, your relationship with them, is because you give your clients time that wasn't necessarily in the maybe the contract. When you said, we're going to have 6 calls over the next 30 days, but it ended up being 12 calls. It was because you felt they had a need, but you also felt like they honored your boundaries, and you wanted to give more. But you still have those boundaries in place, and if you have to remind them, you will. But that's not coming from a place of being, malicious. It's coming from a place of, look, I have this time set for you, just like your coach said. I have this time for you, these days for you, but this is all I can give to you right now. And if you honor that, then, maybe she would give you more. And that's how I think you work with your clients. And I think it's beautiful. I think the relationship that you have with your clients is a beautiful one, because you end up giving more than what you receive. And that's because for you, it really is about your client. I think that's why we really vibe so well, is because we know without a doubt, it isn't about us. We know without a doubt it's about our clients. So I just wanted to honor you and just to say that I really appreciate it.
And I thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And it is about checking yourself and realizing what you can do for yourself, what needs can you meet on your own, even if you have to change those needs or reduce the expectations around those needs. And the advanced level of taking care of your own needs is knowing when to reach out. The novice level is knowing which needs you can take care of on your own, and the advanced level is knowing when and how to ask somebody else to help you meet your needs. To make it a request, not an expectation or a demand. To say, look, can you help me? Are you willing to help me? Because it's that actually got me to the place that I'm at. As I said, a lot of my clients don't pay with money, and it's because when they reached out to me and said, "Look, I need some help. I can't pay with money," I would then reach out to them and say, "Well, you have this thing that I could use. Are you willing to give me that?" And I was careful about making sure it was something that I felt they thought they had in abundance. And if it's something that they believe they had in abundance, they would give it freely. You know, one client had a basement suite he wasn't using, so I asked if I could live there. He said, "Yeah, come live here." He didn't necessarily need the income from it. He just needed a place. He just wanted to give me in return for what I had given him. So, it's a way to ask for help. The advanced cure for neediness is part of taking responsibility for meeting your own needs, is taking responsibility for asking for the people who are good at that, or who have that to offer, who have the extra of whatever it is you're asking for. Ask them. And if they truly have it in abundance, they'll probably want to give it to you. If they don't believe they have the extra to give, then they might not give it to you. So it's about knowing when and how to ask to get your needs met, right? It really does make a difference. So yeah, this is a wonderful conversation. I love this conversation. It's one close to my heart, as you can tell.
Yeah, well, but I love the fact, like I said, it really has taken you down this path to the coaching that you do. And the just the amount of time and energy you put into what you do for your clients is incredible. No one sees the back story. I get privileged to that, but nobody gets to see what goes into the things that you do. And I think it's really incredible what that you do for other people, in that you just put the time in. And one of the things for our listeners that you might not know is that he's not only called the unconditional coach, he's also been called the midnight coach, meaning he'll actually create space and time for you in the wee hours of the morning. So he's often up, up until 3. Sometimes he's been up until 5 talking to clients, and then he'll get in his rest. And so I really think that's an incredible thing that you do, and providing that for them. That's why, again, although this is very close to your heart as far as like an experience wise in this conversation, it really just is testament to how far you've come from that place to where you are today. So it's been an honor talking with you about this conversation today. I really love it. It's been such a great conversation. I hope you guys have found value with this. And as we always say, we'd love for you to share this. We'd love for you to subscribe, like and subscribe, because we definitely don't want you to miss out on our other new and upcoming conversations. But we'd love for you to share this around with your friends. And the reason why we ask for that is we want to help people. That is our overall goal here for this channel. So if there's someone in your life right now that needs to hear the messages that the things that we're talking about, that could just help them to start feeling less alone, less like they're isolating themselves because they feel like no one gets them, no one understands. That's one of the reasons why we created this space for people to start to feel seen and heard and understood, that, we get it. And we want you to be able to actually, come in and get poured into through these conversations. So we're definitely happy about that for you being here. So
yeah, we're here to help.
Yeah,
definitely. We're here to
definitely.
help. We want to help you. We want to help other people like you. We want to help get these messages out there so that people realize that there is another way to think, there is another way to feel, there is another way to experience their lives, and there, most of all, there is help. You're not alone. There's other people who've experienced this, and there is people who can help. Obviously, we can help. That's not just what we're talking about. There's as this community builds, we'll find more and more people who you'll have in common with. You'll be able to relate to more and more people. That's what we're looking to do, is create community and offer help. We just want to help people. So please subscribe, like the video, that the algorithms can see that other people like it, but also share this around. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you're looking for. And thank you for participating in this conversation, for watching, for being here with us today. And thank you, Leslie, for all the kind words, the compliments, and of course, the wonderful conversation. I love it every time we do it.
Welcome. Me too. So with that being said, we hope you have a great weekend, a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy some time with your family and your friends. Don't isolate yourself, but actually get into the community, do something, have fun, start making life more joyful.
Yes.
And we hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll see you next Saturday.
We'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.